Business leaders at the local, state, and federal level will join forces at over 100 events nationwide this week to talk infrastructure. Focus on rebuilding and modernizing critical infrastructure will be top of the agenda. Joining us now, former Transportation Secretary LaHood and former Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. They are the co-chairs of Building America's Future. Gentlemen, great to have you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Secretary LaHood, I will begin with you. It seems that everybody can point to various projects in their own towns, in their own cities, in their own states that absolutely need to get done. What do you think is a number one hurdle to stuff actually happening?
Congress needs to pass a transportation bill and fund it, and that's really what the problem has been. It's for the lack of funding, for the lack of resources. The Highway Trust Fund is broke, and Congress hasn't passed a transportation bill in several years, and the White House really needs to provide the leadership on this and step up and say, hey, we need to fix America's infrastructure. A lot of us thought that President Trump was going to do that early on, and it's just a huge, huge disappointment that this administration has not stepped up and really stepped out with a bold plan and a way to fund it.
Governor Rendell, on the state level, are there things that states are doing, can do further in order to fund their own infrastructure projects, whether it be tap the capital markets themselves or enlist the help of the private sector?
Well, states can do both, but states have stepped up. 26 states in the last 4 years have significantly raised their gas tax. They've put their money where their mouth was. And we need a federal investment. The private sector can be used here. There's money waiting on the sidelines to invest, but there's 60,000 structurally deficient bridges in America, for example. Only 100 of them generate enough traffic to be tolled. So 59,900 have to be done by the government. That's local, state, and federal. And the federal government has to step up. What President Trump has proposed, $200 billion new spending in 10 years. That's $20 billion a year. The American Society of Civil Engineers says to get to a passing grade, we need to invest 10 times that much in a year. We've got to raise the gas tax. The AFL-CIO and the Chamber of Commerce are both behind a significant increase in the gas tax. And for our airports, which everyone beats up on, we need to raise the passenger facility charge, which is $4.50. We need to raise it to $10. And no one who flies even knows what the passenger facility charge is. And raising it to 10 is nothing compared to what the airlines charge you for a bag or for priority seating, but that would give Congress a lot of money to put into airport improvement.
Secretary LaHood, do you think those kind of revenue measures are politically feasible right now? Do you think it's a matter of congressional attention span, or is there just resistance to the idea of having a lot more federal spending on these types of projects?
Well, look, if you listen to what Speaker Ryan says and others say, they don't want to raise the gas tax, they don't want to raise any revenue. It's not very encouraging. I do think that if President Trump came out today full force behind an infrastructure bill, a 6-year bill, and said we need to raise the gas tax, create an infrastructure bank, do vehicle miles traveled, created 4 or 5 different pots of money, that would push Congress into doing it. He's shown in the past that when he steps up on an issue, boom, Congress takes action. And I believe if President Trump came out today full force behind that kind of a plan, Congress would have no alternative except to debate it and pass it. And in the absence of that, America will continue to be one big pothole and with no light at the end of the tunnel in terms of how we're going to fix our infrastructure.
We might not even have a tunnel if this infrastructure is so terrible. I mean, Secretary LaHood, do you think that this is still a bipartisan issue? Or are we so divisive that
there are no Republican or Democratic bridges. There are no Republican or Democratic roads. Transportation infrastructure has always been bipartisan. If the Republican majority in the Congress were to put a bill on the floor and fund it, Democrats would support it wholeheartedly.
When you get to revenue-raising measures and you're saying putting a fee on this group of people and increasing the tax on another group of people, does it then all of a sudden become not bipartisan or not as bipartisan?
I believe that if the Republican majority and the Republican White House put a bill on the floor, Democrats, and funded it, Democrats would support it overwhelmingly. When I was on the Transportation Committee in Congress, we passed 2 6-year bills with 75 votes on the committee. Everyone voted for them, both Republicans and Democrats. It's been the tradition in our country that transportation and infrastructure is bipartisan, and funding it has been bipartisan.
Well, let's hope that continues. Governor Rendell, you mentioned how much a bill could be in terms of how much the spend could be, but the wide gap between that and the amount needed to actually upgrade a lot of the things that need upgrading. How would you prioritize? How should that money be spent?
For transportation, it should be spent on bridges and roads. It should be spent on ports, airports, inner waterways, locks that are important for our water transportation system. But look, understand, the gas tax hasn't been raised since 1993. In 1993, the price of a movie was $4. Today, the average price of a movie is $12. Things have doubled or tripled in price. We need the gas tax to go up to track that. That's number one. And number two, our congressmen should have a little bit of shot of courage and understand that in Pennsylvania, for example, my Republican successor, Tom Corbett, put a gas tax increase bill for a 32-cent increase over 5 years. I stood with him and urged Democrats to vote for it. It barely passed. But at the next election, 5 months later, not one Democrat or Republican who voted for it lost. Because people understand you get what you pay for.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. Secretary LaHood, Governor Rendell, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.